Hello and welcome to Blue Army TV. I'm sitting here after Carlisle have crashed out of the League Cup to League 2 Harrogate. But look, that's one of quite a few things I need to be discussing in this video. It's been a very eventful week for Carlisle as a club. But we'll start with the match first off. Just absolutely flat from the very start. There was no attack and threat. I think we just lost control in midfield. Look, no one could watch the game unless you went to the game, and I didn't. I've done that away trip before, and I was very glad I didn't have to do it again when we got promoted. The League Cup draw happened. Great. I said I'm not going back down. Look, Harrogate's not a bad place. It's not a bad ground. It's very clearly a non-league ground, but it's a decent old stadium. But yeah, once again they've got the better of us. In 8 attempts now beaten them, we've lost 6, drawn 2. Still yet to beat them. They're very much our bogey team, but look, Paul Simpson can say that bogey teams don't exist all he wants, but to do that he's going to have to put it right and beat Harrogate, which he didn't do. To be honest, the big problem today was the forwards, and Paul Simpson's admitted that. We started with Plant, as almost like a lone forward, which just did not work at all. He hasn't really impressed anyone in the last 2 games. He just looks very slow. He looks slightly unfit. He looks slow. He can't keep the ball, which isn't great when you're playing as a lone forward. He can't retain it. He always loses the ball. He can never find the right pass. As it's, at least that's what's happening in these 2 games. We've seen lone players come in, have shaky starts. The big example would be Simeu. He was absolutely dreadful in his first few games, and he almost became a bit of a cult hero by the time he'd finished the season. Maybe the same can be done for Luke Plange, but at the minute, I think he could do with a spell on the bench. I just don't see him starting next week at all. Ryan Edmondson came under a lot of stick, rightfully so, drifting out wide when he should have stayed for the middle. Didn't provide anything, missed the penalty, which, that penalty goes in, I think we probably win it in the 90 minutes, because we were very much on the up. We were very much the better team when that, for the last 20 minutes before that penalty shout got given. Taylor Charters won the penalty. He's, Simo's admitted that he's our best penalty taker. He's been given the most important penalties. While he's been at the club, he's won a few penalty shootouts now for us, including the big one at Wembley. I cannot think of a single reason why Taylor didn't take that penalty, apart from the fact that you want to get Ryan Edmondson off the mark for the season, which, in my opinion, is just a stupid reason. You've got to earn being on a penalty. You can't just give them a penalty. You can't just give somebody a penalty because you think they would like one. Our best penalty taker should be taking that, and Taylor didn't. It's a very difficult one to understand, and I don't know whose idea it was for him to take it. Was Paul Simpson to blame for it? Was that his idea? Did Ryan Edmondson decide he was going to take it? Did he step up when no one else would? I don't know, but at the end of the day, he probably shouldn't have taken it. And look, he's had 2 penalties in the league so far in his career, and he's missed both of them. I don't want to see him taking another one, especially when he does the skip. The keeper's already gone the wrong way, and he's got an empty nest to pass it into, and he still misses. He goes wide, and he goes well wide as well when you look at the highlights. Yeah, it's a difficult one to take against Harrogate, and I think, look, people are saying we need a new striker, which I can agree with. I think Sean Maguire will come good. I really do like Sean Maguire. Jordan Gibson's looked really good so far, in my opinion, although I think he might be better as a midfielder. Next week, I'd like, unless there's a brilliant new signing like an Armstrong, from a club like Harrogate, I can't see another strike partnership other than Gibson Maguire, which some people would argue is 2 sort of supporting forwards. I disagree. I think Sean Maguire can push forward, and I think that's where he tried to play. Against Fleetwood when he came on. I can't really say too much about Harrogate because I didn't get to watch the game, but I think he can be that out-and-out goal scorer. He's definitely got the quality. That's what I'd like to see next week, and it was Gibson and Maguire. I think Maguire needs to be starting. I'd imagine he's probably on one of the highest earners at the club, so I think he needs to start. You need to he's the marquee signing this summer, and he needs to start playing games. I know he didn't have a proper pre-season, and that's Also, the issue with Plange, yeah, he's been starting games. It's a difficult one because it's a big issue that needs solving now. But yeah, look, it's the League Cup. There's been a lot of upsets in that round, as there always is with the League Cup. There's been a few Championship teams knocked out. I think Blackburn are out. Newport beat a team higher up than them. There's been a lot of upsets in that round. We were just one of many, and yes, that's no excuse. And it was quite a strong 11 from us. We rested our best players. Owen Moxon wasn't even in the squad. Paul Huntington wasn't in the squad. Finn Back wasn't even in the squad. They're arguably our three most important players. Our star player Owen Moxon, our captain Paul Huntington, and who, in my opinion, has been our best player in the opening. The best player in the opening game, and who's looked the best in pre-season, Finn Back. They're our three most important players, in my opinion, and not one of them was even in the squad for that game. Does that show that he didn't take it seriously? I don't know, because he only made 4 changes to the starting 11. It's an interesting one. Would it have gone differently if Moxon was there? Does it mean Moxon's leaving? I've seen a few people saying, no, I don't think so. I think if he'd have started a proper sort of first choice 11 and, Huntington was playing, Finn Back was on the right, and even then all of our good players were on the bench, then I would be a little bit worried. But the fact that he's dropped not just Moxon but Huntington and Back tells me that there's not really too much to look into for that. But yeah, it was a decent squad. It's a squad good enough to beat Harrogate at the very least. But yeah, it's disappointing to be out of the League Cup, because for a fact Harrogate are now going to go and get like a Leeds or a Leicester or a club like that in the next round. It's the same thing. Shrewsbury, I remember them beating us a few seasons ago, and I said they would get Liverpool in the next round, and they did get Liverpool in the next round, because that's how these things go with Carlisle. I know it necessarily wouldn't have been us in the next round that would draw them, but that just seems to be how the ball rolls for Carlisle. And it's been a good few seasons since we got a good cup run going. I'd just like to see one for Paul Simpson, because I think Paul Simpson's done enough to deserve it. I'm not going to give him man of the match, because not only was I not there, but it doesn't sound like anyone was anywhere near good enough to deserve man of the match. An interesting one for me was that Sam Lavelle was captain, which I'm in two minds about. On one hand, through pre-season and during the Fleetwood game last week, he looks a very vocal player. He's been a captain at Morecambe in the past, which, he's got the hallmarks of a captain. He's got the quality to be a captain of the squad, especially when Huntington's not there and he's playing in Huntington's position. On the other hand, he's a new signing, and a part of me doesn't like a player that's come in during the summer to immediately go in and be a captain, which he isn't. He's only being captain because Huntington isn't there. But something about it doesn't sit right with me. Just because he's a new signing. It's just a personal thing for me, but he looks a very good player. He looks very vocal. Didn't do enough he didn't do enough to lead his team to a victory, though, unfortunately. But yeah, that's just one of a few things that have happened this week, that game. One thing that's happening is that the Warwick Road End's going to be shut for a couple of games, which in my opinion is I'm very much going to be in the minority of this, but I don't support that decision whatsoever. I think it's very much we don't know what to do, we're panicking, we don't want to get fined, so we need to look like we're doing something sort of decision. It's definitely, I'm not excusing what people have been doing in the Warwick Road End. For the most part, the fans in that stand are excellent. I know a good few of the, Warwick Road End boys who do the social media stuff who have painted that stand. And it's got nothing to do with them, what's happened in there. It's just a few idiots that have come in and thrown vapes on the pitch for some reason. But look, you look at the security in that ground, all it takes is a couple of cameras to sort out who they are. The students the stewards. I've always looked at the stewards during match days, and the vast majority of them just sit on the touchline, on the pitch, looking at the game, not looking at the crowd whatsoever. The standard of stewarding at Carlisle hasn't been great, and in my opinion, the fans need to sort it out themselves sort of thing is a bit of a small club mentality, because when you get big crowds and you're attracting not fans but people from the public who just want to come and watch football, you're gonna get idiots coming to the ground, especially in a crowd of 10,000. You're gonna get idiots, and if you're getting higher crowds, you need higher security costs. But instead what they've done, the club have just spat the dummy out, completely thrown the fans under the bus, shut one of the stands, and has just had a complete meltdown, no reaction to it. What needs to... And look, from what I've heard, the people who have done it have been caught. Why on earth are the stands still shut? It reeks of, we want to seem like we're doing something. It's not the club trying to be proactive and doing something about it. It's just they want to be seen to be doing something about it, in my opinion, and it's a complete wrong decision. I mean, imagine being one of the people in the Warwick Road end you've painted that stand, a lot of them, you've actually contributed to making that stand better. The flags that the people in that stand have, forked up the money to afford. And look, I'm not involved in that group whatsoever, so I'm not speaking on their behalf by any stretch of the imagination. And my opinion might not mirror theirs, but in my opinion, it's so unfair on the amount of people that are in that stand that go to the Warwick Road end every week, and because of a few idiots, they can no longer go and support that sort of community that they've built now. The club loves to be shown to supporting them in every sort of way possible on social media, but one thing goes wrong and they immediately throw them under the bus. It just doesn't seem right to me. And I know I'll be in the minority of that, because a lot of clubs, a lot of the fans on Twitter that I've seen have said that they back the club in the decision they've made to shut the stand, but to me it just seems like a complete overreaction. And that brings us on to the third point. A bit more happy news this time. It looks as if there's somebody interested in buying the club. According to John Coleman and the News and Star, there's been some American businessmen that have been spotted at a few games, and look, a lot of these things have come out in a few years. A consortium, Chris Lumsden's group of businessmen, an investor from America's been rumoured to be interested with it, and there's a lot of them, and very little does anything actually come from them. However, this time they've been spotted at the ground. There's an actual genuine News and Star article about them. That they've got a few social media posts being put out by the people who want to buy the club that have now been removed. That if you read the News and Star article, it'll tell you all you need to know. But anyways, there seems to be some genuine, real, concrete interest from a group of American businessmen. I'm not going to pretend like I know a massive amount about them, but it seems more reliable than any of the rumours we've seen over the last few years. That's all I can really say about that. Hopefully something comes from it. Someone else, I would say, the renaming of the Andrew Jenkins stand seems like very good timing to me, almost like a goodbye, a sort of thank you for your service sort of thing from the rest of the board, as if some sort of goodbye present. I don't know. It's all just guessing, presumptions. I don't know. I'd like to see something come from it, especially if they're going to get us out of the debt that we're in. But yeah, maybe that could be a bit more positivity around the club that over the last week has definitely been needed. Bring on the soccer playing blues. But yeah, thank you for watching today's video. I imagine it's been quite a long one. I've definitely waffled about a lot of different things in this game, in this episode. Not just about the game, but I hope that you enjoyed watching anyways. Thank you for watching the video. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and in a bit.